Hi there lovelies, I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach, supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. And today, let's talk about the inner critic. According to beyondblue.org, there's a gap between how you see yourself and how you think you should be. This gap is the playground of your inner critic. In its most generalized definition, your inner critic is the part of you that tells you all the bad things. Like, oh, you're so stupid. You're not worth the money you're trying to charge. You don't have enough experience to share that information. You aren't educated enough. And if they ever find out the truth about you, you're toast. Tim Kelly, a coach and author, says, it's a relentless, ongoing inner diatribe of negativity about yourself. He goes on to say, it's in as many ways an obvious source of low self-esteem, this 24/7 berating that cuts you down and makes you wrong all the time. What is really interesting is that this inner critic can often be split into multiple parts or personas, if you like, into other archetypal characters, depending on what the focus is. So, if it finds fault in others all the time, it can become the judge. I confess I have a strong inner judge. She shows up mostly as the fashion police. She will often just jump in with an, oh my God, what on earth? Why would they be wearing that? They obviously don't have any mirrors in their house. Now, I would never say it out loud to that person, but the judge definitely says it to me. Another part is the perfectionist, which in its purest sense is different to just making you wrong for everything you do. The perfectionist usually sets really high standards and then finds every way possible to show you how you're failing to measure up to them. This part can become more outwardly verbal toward other people, pointing out how they may have not met a suitable standard and how they could or should do it differently next time. Another interesting part is called the pusher, and while it isn't generally critical in the same way as the others, it's linked toward performance. It's always telling you that you should be doing more. It's constantly pushing you to get more done in the time you have. It's telling you you aren't trying hard enough. Nothing you do is ever enough. We don't often talk about these inner critics for a couple of reasons. We're worried about other people's reactions and what they will think of them. Or we worry that the voice might be true. Both of these outcomes can lead us to what Brené Brown calls a shame storm. From my research into the work of Brené Brown, the only way out of a shame storm is through sharing and calling out the shame. Shame grows in the darkness of silence, but it can't survive when it's brought into the light. So if you have a version of these inner critics, and let's face it, we all do, the greatest damage they can make to ourselves lies in the degree to which we believe what they are saying is the truth. So it's really important that we identify these inner critics and acknowledge them, even if it's only to ourselves to begin. So we can bring them into the light and acknowledge what impact they are having on our everyday life. The impact they do have can be varied for the individual and might range from mild concern through to feeling frozen in fear and anxiety. And then over time, it may diminish our get up and go, or even lock us into repeating painful patterns of shame and punishment. However, it's also super important right now to say that our inner critic does have an important role to play when it's balanced and not running recklessly out of control. It's the part of us that keeps us safe. It's the part that helps to recognise when we're wrong, or we've screwed up, or there's a chance we'll get into danger. So how do we keep it in balance? The same way we do with anything, by paying attention to it in a curious, non-judgmental, explorative way. Here's the witness opportunity again for you, my lovelies. What does your inner critic say to you? How does she say it? Is she scolding or berating or shaming you? Are there any repetitious patterning of doubts or discouragement? Is it vindictive and cruel? Or is it merely pointing out a fact or apparent reality? Get really curious. What are the emotions you've attached to what she's saying? Like getting angry at yourself, or feeling shame or anxiety. Are you embarrassed for thinking it? Begin to recognise any underlying attitudes you have to always have to do more, or maybe to be good enough. Can you identify any moralistic self-flagellations that you should be ashamed of yourself, or that you're a bad person? And does this voice remind you of anyone you know? Is there anything familiar about the tone or the words? When you take on the witness position by stepping back or tuning in from the outside and listen closely, you can hear it without being it. This level of detachment gives you space to process it. So, what if you do have an overexpressed inner critic? Well, it can help to give her a silly name. I know people who call her Pixie or Lois. This is all about reducing her validity and credibility. I know for me it helps to say out loud to her, "All right, girlie, calm your tits." And the wind is released from her sails. Psychologist Rick Hanson says it helps to also imagine a caring committee with different characters who represent various kinds of support and wisdom. Now, this is not unlike using the 5 women's power types to bolster you. But it could be real people you know and love that support you, or maybe actors or fictional characters from books or the movies that form your caring committee. Inside the One of Many Living the Change membership, Dr. Joanna Martin has a great video dedicated to the inner critic. In this, Jo talks about how we can't get rid of our inner critic, but we can tame her and develop a different relationship with her, rather than always feeling overwhelmed by what we've allowed her to continually tell us, which can very often stem from our tender years, maybe even by a critical parent or some other authority figure. If you can imagine, again, as Brené Brown says, that we're hardwired for love and connection. And so if we're told often enough that we're not good enough, or that we have to maintain or live up to an unrealistic expectation to maintain that love and connection, our inner critic is going to become very loud and strong to keep us safe in those formative years. One great tip Jo shares is to acknowledge and then thank your inner critic for her service, and then ignore her and pass the information on to your inner strategist, the Queen. Something like, well, thanks Lois. Thanks for telling me I have screwed up my job interview, but actually I got good vibes from the panel. So I'm just going to go and see what my Queen has to say. Now, is this going to stop the inner chatter? Maybe not, but you don't have to keep listening to it. Put the information she's trying to convey into some sort of rational perspective and then move on. Put on a feel-good song or start doing something that makes you feel good. Something else to be mindful of is that our inner critic becomes loud and obnoxious if we're deplete, running on empty. If what your critic is saying to you triggers a shame storm, it's time for some radical self-care. Check in on yourself. Are you tired or hungry, lonely, overwhelmed? This time, instead of turning to your Queen energy, turn to the mother or the lover power types for some self-nurturing and some self-love. Bottom line, we're all great people who can become careless, mouthy, needy, or some other less than state when we aren't sitting at okay. So again, thank your inner critic for her feedback and then take care of yourself. And if then you've involved someone else maybe, make the appeasements if necessary. Let them know that you're not okay right now, but you're going to make some changes to remedy that. Maybe your early morning meeting ran way over time and that then snowballed to the rest of the day. You had to skip lunch, so now you're tired and hungry. And your partner asks, "What's for dinner?" Your inner critic, who hasn't shut up all day, loads her gun and fires off. "Oh, you didn't think about that, did you? You were supposed to pick up something on the way home, but you are such a disorganized idiot. You forgot. You forget everything. You forgot your mum's birthday last week too." And then and on she goes, making you instantly angry at yourself for being such a bloody moron. So you snap at your partner, telling them they could be more helpful. They don't do anything to help you. Have you ever had a conversation sort of slide into the sewer like that? So I ask, how much better would it be if, as soon as Lois starts, you thank her for reminding you that you were going to pop into the shops, and then tune her out and dial up your Queen power type and come up with a plan B. Eggs on toast it is. This new scenario could look as simple as saying to your partner, "I'm sorry, I forgot to pick something up. My brain is fried and I'm really tired right now. after a pretty shitty day for me. And all I have the energy for is eggs on toast. Unless you want to go out and rustle something up. Can you see how that would be more resourceful for you and anyone else concerned? So I invite you to get curious with your inner critic and begin to get to know her or her accomplices so much better. So you can tame them to becoming the servants for your best interests, safety and well-being that they are supposed to be. I'd love you to let me know how you're going to make changes to your relationship with your inner critic in the comments. And if you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, or maybe a like or love depending on the platform that you're viewing it on. I also want to draw your attention to the 2-day free virtual experience coming up on the 19th and 20th of September, Momentum for Change, where Dr. Joanna Martin and the wonderful One of Many team of highly experienced trainers, coaches and invited guests will provide some much needed support and share skills designed to help you navigate a better way forward than perhaps is at your disposal at the moment. Registrations are open now, and I'd love to invite you to use my affiliate link in the post or in my bio if you're on Instagram, and register your free place. Also, please remember, if your now is not the picture that you've painted for yourself and you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please do get in touch with me. You can do it really easily. Just leave me a comment, send me a private message, drop me an email, or pop over to my Calendly online diary using the link I've provided, and we can set up an obligation-free curiosity call and see if we're a good fit for each other. Much love until next time.